And we're live. Hello, Erik. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
You
It's
too.
good
Are
to
you
be back.
very cold there at the moment, or?
Well, yeah, it's around freezing. So the kids are very excited to wait each day if there's snow and get disappointed because there's no snow. So yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, summer here, and we're getting 39-degree heat.
Oh,
So
okay. So I'm
yeah,
coming over.
enjoy
Yeah.
your nice breezy atmosphere.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. It's the other.
And welcome to everyone that comes to watch this video. We are going to concentrate on resource management today. Erik is from Projectum, and they've got a fantastic solution for the PPMO space. I've had a look at it. It looks really good, and we're going to focus on the resource management capability. Now, I am a huge proponent of resource management in the old tool that shall not be spoken of, Project Server and Project Online from Microsoft. For some reason, Microsoft's decided they're not going to continue to support such a platform. So we're in a situation now in our world where Projectum has to step in, and others do similar sort of things. But I really like the way Projectum handles its resource management. And for me, it's probably, Erik, it's got to be one of the main reasons an enterprise wants to get a tool set in place, because
Yes.
it can create order out of the chaos that is vying for resources internally and externally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I know you've got a presentation, so let me pop it up. And how about, without further ado, why don't you take us through resource management with Projectum?
All right. Great. Well, thanks for to discuss the topic. And resource management and Projectum have a long history together. We even started in the project server time when the tool that I'm going to show was called Resource Manager. But this is the third iteration of the tool, and it's called Team Planner now. And it links up to multiple sources that you would like to have. So it can still work with Project Server, Project Online, but of course it has a core component with our own solution called Power PPM. Now, Power PPM, we have discussed this last video already a little bit. I'm not going to delve too deeply into this, but this is our model-driven solution for project and portfolio management. What we are going to look into is our solution called Team Planner, which is a separate application that can be linked up to whatever project management solution you might have. And the reason why I'm saying every solution that you might have is because it is an Azure application that has multiple ways of linking up to a project management system. So be it that you have Planner, be it that you have Project Online, be it that you have Power PPM, this has the ability to surface those projects and help you out with the resource allocation. Now, how Projectum sees that scenario playing out can be visualized in this setup. So let's start with the project intake. We have our business case. We're going to start this project. What does the project manager first need to do? They need to have resource requested. And this is a step that was missing or that was lacking in the extent that we're going to see with Team Planner, where a request was done on a generic resource. So let's say we have the need for a consultant or a developer, and that resource request is done by the project manager. They own the project, but they don't own the resource. So there needs to be a request sent out to the system or the organization. Then there is another person on the other end of the call, that's the line manager or the resource manager, and they find out what the ideal substitute for that generic resource is. So let's say the consultant, that's going to be Simon, and the developer is going to be Erik.
And they never want me, Erik. Sorry, they never want me. They specifically say not Simon.
Yeah, and it would be very bad to have me as a developer. That's also true. But this is the moment where we say, okay, this is a handshake moment. This is a informal contract between the project manager and the line manager, where the project manager says, okay, I want a consultant for half a year for 200 hours. Now, mind you, that is not on a task specific. That is just the project. I need 200 hours for this half year. And then the line manager says, okay, I have someone available for you. Go ahead. And then the team is being prepared, and we have actual execution and allocations, and the cycle continues, right? We have execution.
Yeah, I like that idea, because quite often you end up with, at the start of a project, it's a ROM, it's a rough order of magnitude sort of. I need someone second half of the year, like you said, for 200 hours, and it's not granular yet, so we're not tasked. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and that whole scoping of the resources. I've been working with projects that span multiple years, 5 years, 6 years. Is not unheard of in certain construction projects, right? So it doesn't make sense to fine tune each and every resource allocation years ahead of time. So that's why we chose to have broad resource requests and the allocations as well.
Well, I'll be honest with you, mate. Most projects should do stages, and stages into the future shouldn't be finally defined yet. So I hit on a little bugbear of mine. A lot of IT projects try to go agile because they don't want to do stage plans, and if they just did the stage plan, everyone would be more forgiving with them, but they don't. So anyway, please continue without my grumbling.
Oh, no worries. I like the discussions. So resource planning in general, if we take the two main actors and the system, so we have the requester, that is the project manager, and the allocator, that's the resource manager. So in the middle, we have team planner, and we have projects, and we have requests and allocations. The requester asks for a generic resource, the developer, the consultant, and the allocator finds Simon and Erik. Now, as the projects progress, changes will happen, and the requester will change their requests, and the allocator will adhere to those changes. There is also the operational work, or the line of business actions that need to take place, internal work. There's also training, vacations need to be planned, so that we have a good overview of the complete capacity of the resources. Now, if we take this part and we would draw it in a graph, that graph could look roughly like this, where we have a somewhat horizontal line that is the capacity that we have in our organization. And mind you, in our little example, we have 2 FTE, Simon and Erik, and we have 2 generic resources, or the roles, the developer and the consultant. Now, as we move in time, the capacity might dip in July because there's a holiday season then. And it might do another dip in December, of course. But roughly speaking, the capacity would be horizontal. And the larger the organization, the more horizontal it gets. But what we see in the near future, we would need to have all demand supplied with actual people. But in the future, in the far future, let's take that construction scenario again. I do not care if Simon is going to do the work in 2 years from now, or if it is just a generic consultant. Because I don't know if Simon wins the lottery halfway through and decides to leave the company. right? So it doesn't matter.
I'm much more likely to get hit by a bus. Just
or a coconut and a lightning bolt, but yeah, and a shark jumping up.
Either way, I'm out of the picture. I get you.
Yeah. So this is roughly how we envision those people, roles, and capacity to align on a chart. And with our tool, we're able to create lovely reports like these. This is a somewhat old report visualization, but what you'll middle section is we have a resource role, we have team members, we have weekly basis. You see a red value at team member 199, and we can see the external, internal application of capacity hours. Free capacity grows when time grows. So this is roughly what we can do with Team Planner. And I'll stop sharing.
You've broken it down to a weekly basis there. So again, you can look as granular as you like as the tasks allow, right? So
yes. So let me stop sharing the presentation. Let's have a short, or let's open up for a short talk before I actually show the tool itself. So what you mentioned, the granularity with construction projects spanning multiple years, you want to have the first business case on year basis or maybe on quarterly basis. And then once you move to the next 3 months, you might want to go into weekly basis and start planning on weekly basis.
Yeah.
There's multiple ways of going about this. Yeah.
Yeah. It comes back to that stage plan. It's like you don't expect to see exactly what someone's going to do in 6 months' time. You don't want to plan for that. That's like you said, it's very foolish to expect someone to be there in 6 months' time, because you don't want to show up in 6 months and find out the person's left the company or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you want to keep it at a role level. The sort of golden rule, because I used to do that sort of thing with SSRS way back with Projects. You hop into the assignment table and grab the resources and everything else, and you pull it together as a report. And you just say, well, what's the horizon that you need to have certainty at for a project? And if you come up with a golden rule around 3 months or 2 months, so the project needs to know who's going to do the work 2 months in advance. Like you said, the line manager's not surprised because they've made an agreement already. Yeah. So, it should. And I've seen it work well. I've also seen it where resources get really ticked off because they're by default now timesheeting against.
Yeah. They can be doing that as well. Yeah, exactly.
So it's a tricky way to get timesheeting in on them. Because you need to forecast and actualize. But do you want to share? You want to share your screen, Matt, and we'll have a look at this.
Yeah, and just before we do that, I want to mention that the horizon of your resource management, as your organization gets more mature in project management and resource management, what we see, the more maturing customers, what they're doing is they have a horizon planning in December or in that seasonal time frame. And they plan ahead for the whole next year. They set that in stone, and then they have their monthly increments, and they plan on replacing the generic resource with specific resources down the line.
Yeah.
All right.
Look, I mean, it comes down to, I think it comes down to, as soon as there's a change in the schedule, then with that plan, do, check, act that you showed, right? Like it's not very static. Like if your project remains static, you're probably not tracking it right.
Probably can you finish? Yeah.
Exactly. So as resource A in your critical path messes up his work, I almost swore, but as soon as he messes up his work, then, well, I'll put it this way, as soon as Simon messes up his part of work and you're next in the critical path, you might shift out a month, and then that needs to be recorded because you might be next month meant to be working on project B, and now there has to be a decision. Is it too bad project A, you don't get him next month because you messed up, or hey, project B, you have to wait a month, so you reschedule as well.
Exactly. And then it goes away from a critical path only on tasks, and it starts to become a resource critical path. Exactly. Something that Erik Uiterwaal did, my Canadian name twin. Yeah.
So again, the report is just to inform and improve the maturity. Yeah. So like doing some what if scenarios. What happens if this resource disappears? What's the impact on projects? How badly do we rely on this one guy, which is often a case at T, for instance. And can we bring in external contractors to fill gaps at certain points? So you might end up with this exercise in the past for me has brought up the idea of having a panel arrangement specifically for bringing in ad hoc resources into projects. Anyway, so share away, mate, and we'll have a look at the actual tool.
All right.
And I got to say, it's much better having it as a tool than as a report. And you'll show me why in a minute.
Yeah, let me try and do that. I'm going to share my entire screen. That's going to be the easiest.
Hide the evidence, though, please.
All right. Can you see project?
There we go.
All right. So this is Power PPM, the application where we store our projects, our portfolios, our programs, and it has a resource section. So we have the heat map, we have our resources, and we have Team Planner, the application. What we've seen organizations struggle with is adopting the Team Planner as a application as a whole. And the reason behind that is because organizations don't always have that strict request and allocation scenario. Some organizations will still have the requester being the project manager that screams the loudest for their resources and then gets them without interference of our line manager or resource manager. So for organizations like that, we also have a lightweight resource management capability inside Power PPM itself. So just as an intermediate scenario, nice to know that we also have the capacity heat map opportunity just inside Power PPM. Now be aware that this takes into account resource assignments on tasks. So that is different from that handshake moment that we've discussed earlier.
Yeah, so this would be the same as the report that I'm talking about. That we did that I've done many times, but
exactly.
It's looking at the database itself.
Yeah,
and I assume you're looking at the calendars for capacity, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So we do take a look at people that are part-time workers or full-time workers. Here, for instance, we see Peter. Peter has an over-allocation the whole year, and next year he's going to. Oh, this is now. He's probably breaking down somewhere here.
Or he's been cloned multiple times. One of the other.
I only wish if we had more Peters, that would be amazing. So even I'm doing something next year, probably. That's good to know. So here you see the 2 projects that I'm working on and the amount of hours that I'm working on those 2 projects. So Erik's sustainable energy demo, that's the one that I want to focus on. And this is a project that I'm going to find. And here we have my sustainable energy demonstration. So probably we've already covered most of this topic here, where we have our timeline, where we have our Gantt chart visualization. But for now, it would be more interesting to look at team members, where we can see that no one has been assigned here yet, but we also have our resource request. Now, remember, in the team planner scenario, we, as a project manager, can only assign generic resources. I've already populated this slide deck here with, for instance, the customer service consultant who's doing something in January for a number of hours. We have a consultant and we have a project manager. And we have requests and we have allocations. So what we see here is I have a sidebar called resources. And in the resources, I have generic resources such as accounting consultant or the consultancy pool. I also have the customer service. Let me see if I have something of a Power BI consultant. I do not. Consultant. A dynamics consultant. Let's have a dynamic consultant. I'll drag and drop. That dynamic consultant is now added, and I can request that consultant for next month for 80 hours. That turns red because there is a request, but no associated allocation for that. And I can move that request for the next couple of months. Let me do that right now until May. We need a total of 320 hours of that consultant.
Yeah.
Now,
so very similar to the Microsoft project server resource requesting.
exactly.
But can you do it the other way? Can you put the generic resource in the Gantt chart?
Yeah, exactly. So you can remember that the request and the allocation is a handshake moment, and it's on rough scenario basing. So that means that it's on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis or a yearly basis.
Okay. Well, let me put you. Let's give you a little challenge, maybe. So if you go to your timeline or your Gantt chart view, wherever you can plug in some resources. Okay. So if you make a task anywhere, it doesn't matter where, and we'll add a generic resource to it.
So here we have Simon's task.
Yeah.
We can set it to 60 days, for instance. And let's make sure that it is linked up to the low demand. So
this is all web-based too, people. This is one of the best Gantt chart tools, web-based out there. It's really nice.
Thank you very much. That is good.
Point that out to everyone. See how easy a new task, putting in the critical path.
Exactly.
That's how it should be.
All is within this tool. We even have a print option. And are a organization that really likes their Microsoft project. I can fully agree with you because that has nuclear powered scheduling capabilities. We also have the option to open your schedule in Microsoft Project itself. So
I've got a lot of people I know that are in places now where they're not doing project because they're being promised a web app to save them licensing.
Yeah.
Now, I'm dubious, and they hate it. They can't use it. You don't get an assignment view. You don't get a resource assignment view. So I'm still a big proponent of project. But okay, back to this. So if we put a new generic resource against my task.
Yeah. So
now,
let's
does it have to be
take.
one selected before?
let's take the project coordinator.
Okay.
And let's add hours for the project coordinator. And let me see, there is this submit request button here. And if I do that, and on the back end, some gremlins are working.
If we go back to the previous view, do we now have that person?
Yeah, let me show you this first. The request has been submitted, and I can go to the resource request, and I can where is it?
Customer service consultant, wasn't it?
Yeah, customer service consultant. Here we go. I believe that was it. We can watch the recording and see if it was or wasn't. We can also see Team Planner as a whole. And we can see the business intelligence consultant and the project manager. Yeah, this was the one. This was the one. This is it. So the customer service coordinator, the project coordinator for 120 hours is here in 2025.
So this is basically the resource view in MS Project.
Resource allocations view in Microsoft Project. Yeah, only on steroids because we can switch between different projects. And so this is Team Planner, the application as a whole. As a project manager, I would interact in Window because I do my requests from my project and I live and breathe my project. But, and here comes the catch, the line manager doesn't know how to spell Gantt and doesn't know what a Gantt chart does, project manager does. They just know that they come with these pesky little requests and that they need to fulfilling those requests, right? So the line manager or the resource manager gets their own application, Team Planner. And in that Team Planner, they can look at requests, but they can also allocate. And in the allocation side, what you'll see is that the requests are now grayed out. You cannot change a request in that side. But there is an allocation, and we can add allocations. So that project consultant or coordinator, we would like to look at, take a look at monthly view. And here we see that consultant. Let me see if I can find them. The coordinator, here we go. So the coordinator starts at April, of course. Here we have that request for April, 34 hours, and 44 hours in May, and June, 42 hours. Now this is leveled out based on that scheduling task, right? I navigate to resources. I can choose a specific role or I can find a specific resource. Now the amber bar tells me that there's an over allocation. The green bar tells me that they're allocated for a part and that they are not allocated for another. So in other words, Andreas can be added to this project. I can hover over and I can set them to the project coordinator. And I can do two things. I can take a look at the free capacity of that resource, and I can see that they have enough free capacity to fulfill that request. I can manually add that request and it will turn green, or I can say match the request and thereby adding the request equal to that of the generic resource. So the allocation and the request are now in line, and therefore I see all green values. So if I
so here's a challenge. What if you want to split that?
So if you want to split, let's say the project
So
manager.
you want to give hang on, we
So
seem
let's
to
add.
be
There's a little lag in the audio, I think. But
yeah, a little
am I
lag
still
in
here?
general, I think. Hang on, maybe I can. You are. We've got a lag problem.
All right.
And I can't change. We're at high def, and I don't know how to change it.
All right.
I don't know if I can change it. No, live and learn. Next time we'll go a bit lower definition.
Then I am glad that I'm the last high definition. So your question was, can we split up that generic resource in multiple single resources? And I've created the project manager as a generic resource, a generic request of 22. And I can add Asbjørn for 22 and Christian for 22. And what we'll see is that Asbjørn has enough free capacity, but Christian actually dips into a negative number. Now, as a line manager, these are the most interesting parts, right? What is Christian doing that he cannot do my sustainable energy project? So if I click on Christian, what I'll see is that he's doing a network upgrade for 160 hours, and he needs to do that the whole line through. So that means that he won't be available for my little project. That's too bad. So I need to find someone else. And then that whole goes back again, where we go back to allocations. We find a suitable resource based on their availability. We can even tune it down to April itself, and we can take another look at availability. So here we see that Andreas is partially available, and Asbjørn is fully available, and then we have Cecilia. If we add Cecilia here, we can see that Cecilia has enough free capacity. So we'll just move that over. And Christian is available again to do his network problem. I can move this.
So you're effectively splitting up the request across multiple subjects, and we're looking at a month view here. Can we go more granular to split them up by weeks?
Absolutely. So we have the full range of going from year, quarter, month, week, and day.
All down to the day.
Even at the end of the day. So I would not recommend going to a daily level.
I agree.
But yeah, we do have that option because we did have some organizations that have that scenario. So on a weekly basis, what we see is that we have the week numbers and the start dates of those weeks.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
Looks nice,
now,
right?
So do you want to show me the so that's the hand, that's the handshake. I'm sure a PM might get a little bit out of joint if it's not the resource they specifically wanted. So they can actually have a conversation with the resource manager. Imagine that.
Exactly.
And then make the agreement and come back to the tool and make the change there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the charm in having this inside a tool, where we do see organizations adopting a monthly cycle where all resource managers go into a room, have Team Planner up on screen, and start discussing it. So here we see that project managers
shouting at each other, right?
Yeah, probably. It's a soundproof room, so I don't know. But they're getting very animated.
You're gonna have plastic on the floor as well.
Yeah. This turned out dark. But yeah, here we see that project coordinator Andreas, and we see that Asbjørn and Cecilia are taking on the project manager's role. And if we go back to our timeline, we'll also still see that our specific resource can now be allocated. So this was the request, and now I can choose to have Andreas as the assigned resource. So Andreas, and for 120 hours. I even get a message if that doesn't align fully with their availability. So workload, allocations, requests. Yeah.
Now maybe is a good time just to switch us to a more of a PMO view, or more of a organizational resource view. That
Yeah, such as reporting, you mean, or
yeah, because the cycles are one thing, done project by project, but really, I think a lot of benefit just comes from the like, let's say as a contract manager, he needs to know what the contractors are working on. Maybe someone's working past their actual contract date. That happens more often than you'd like it to. Do you know what I mean? So it's not just a resource manager that wants to view this info. It's, it could be that an exec's going to be in his bonnet about utilization rates. So you need to show, like, you might think this development team does nothing all day because all he sees is they're talking and not looking productive. So one of the things I found is just the utilization rates really changes conversations at an exec level.
Absolutely.
Positive and negative.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are doing nothing. But yeah, so that's the sort of thing. So grouping things up by that role and saying, well, how many of these people are actually being used? Yeah. And again, showing the months where the roles are really stretched, so that someone can dip in with some contractors or something to help, or having a conversation around, hey, not a great time for you to take your leave.
Yeah. So let's take a look at those developers, right? I was one of the developers, and here we see all the developers within the organization. We also have a team developer, so that rings through the agile mode of working, where you have your utilization of your teams. But also we have our generic resources that still have allocations that actually should be just specific resources. But here we see one of the resources, Arnie.
That's generics. It's still demand. Right? Like
it's still demand. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Demand that hasn't been filled in, so to say. Yeah. And here we see that there's an over allocation in a specific time frame for 600 hours, or 24% over capacity for Arnie. And maybe Klaus is a good example, or maybe Espen. Each of these resources are developers, and we can see that, okay, well, roughly speaking, they're doing okay. Let's take another look at, for instance, consultants. Or consultants are doing fine. They're not working. Then we have BI consultants, no problem. So you can see the speed that I'm moving between these different roles, and immediately it becomes clear if there's an over allocation. Again, with Peter, of course, that cloning machine needs to be there sooner than
And,
later.
and
The
again,
project.
the reports that I've done in the past, because you're talking about the whole organization, the amount of data that goes into those. So they with the old SSRS, they take a little while to churn out, and they're distributed as PDFs from SSRS, because when you look at every allocation for every every assignment for every resource in a place, it takes some time. So all that data is under there for a bespoke report anyway.
Yeah, and talking about the reporting side, what we do is we pull in the information into a SQL database, and we make the changes to the data to make sure that everything is in place, such as capacity, overviews, and all that. And we build a nice little report on top of that. Let me see if I can sign in successfully. And remember the tools that we were talking about. We have we have Power PPM, we have Team Planner, and we have Time for Teams for our timesheeting. Team Planner has multiple things that you want to focus on. You might be an organization that wants to focus on only FTEs or hours specific.
Quite often, mate. I'm just looking at your priority overview. People want to make sure that people are working on the right thing.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So you want to say, okay, which project doesn't get a developer? Because there's just not enough to go around, so they're going to have to wait.
Yeah, exactly. And here we have our Erik Sustainable Energy. It's not asking a lot based on the total capacity. You see that dip at the end of the year that I mentioned, and July and May and July also has a dip, but the capacity overall is typically an overall horizontal line. Accelerated growth is always a good example where we see how many allocations are requested throughout. Yep.
Yeah, definitely don't give too much to HR though. They do evil things with their data.
Yeah. So roughly that is what I can share with you regarding our tool, Team Planner and Resource Management.
No, it's great, man. Like in our last video, I'm 100% impressed. It's just embarrassing for Microsoft that they've lost so much. But that's a different discussion.
Okay. Yeah, and we talked about it as being a company opportunity for organizations such as Projectum to jump in. That said, Planner and the whole journey of Planner, it's becoming more interesting now, where we have the AI project manager thing coming up. I'm looking forward to that. And because it's linked up into the Dataverse, it can still be a part of the broader overview, right? So instead of taking center stage, Microsoft is now taking backstage and assisting that task management topic. It's no longer a project manager's topic. It's a task scheduling managing topic.
Optimism is for the young, Erik. So I'll leave it with you there. I did see on LinkedIn, I saw the CEO of Microsoft say that AI-driven the software and applications aren't the future.
Yeah.
I won't get this right, but it'll be about AI-driven
UI.
Yeah, it'll be AI-driven bots that do everything for you. So they won't need an application; they'll just go do it.
Exactly.
Maybe I'll get to see that. Maybe I won't, but it's not here yet. And I don't know. I think let's have another chat sometime about AI and what it can do now and what we think it can do in the future.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Involved in that.
Yeah,
because
and
I'll be
just as a teaser here, we've talked about Peter before. Peter is, of course, one of our founding members with Projectum. He has just recently released a 22-minute video on his perspective of AI. And that 22 minutes is well spent. So
you share the link with me, and I'll put it in the description below.
All right,
For anyone
great.
that's still watching. Cool, Bananas.
Let's
Okay,
do
mate.
that.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Yes, for sure.
Hurry.